Hello, family. Have you been drawn to Egypt? Do you feel a resonation around Egypt and maybe going and visiting it in the future? Well, this is Anistara Ma Ka here, and I have just recently returned from my pilgrimage to Egypt, and I have so much to share with you today. I'll be guiding you through a presentation of photos and videos and sharing some of the messages that came through while I was in Egypt. So I am so excited I am so excited to share all of this with you today. So after some deep integration time with my family, being back in the US, I really got to sit down and write out some more information, more wisdom, more knowledge that's coming through. And the more that I look at the glyphs and the photos and the videos, the more I receive. One of the things that I did when I first arrived to Egypt was really, truly call in the intention of being an open vessel, a receptive vessel for any information and wisdom to come through. And so I'm very excited to share some of these things with you. This is part one of a 4-week series. As I was working on the presentation with my beloved Brielle, we realized that there was so much to include. And so instead of just sharing today, we decided to extend it and expand it into the next 3 weeks past this week. So 4 weeks, 4 parts of messages from Egypt. And so here we go. Let's launch our presentation. So this is a photo of the Giza Plateau. And there are 9 pyramids on the plateau. And we'll go into this a little bit further as we go through the presentation. But the first thing that I'd like to start with is a little disclaimer. So we would like to invite you to be open-minded about what I'm going to share. This is all my own opinion and perspective from my experience of being in Egypt and at these sacred sites. Each one holds its own frequency and vibration, or codes, if you will. And for me, it was a personal experience. So I am not an Egyptologist. I am not a chematologist. I am not a historian. And yet I had my own experience being at these sacred sites. And so a lot of this content is me just sharing from my heart and my inner truth and wisdom while being present and experiencing each of the sites. I'd like to ask that you respect and honor this content, as it is something that is flowing through. I am so open to hearing more comments and feedback or feed forward from all of you, because I know some of you have already visited Egypt. You have connections to Egypt. In fact, some of you even study or even understand some of the hieroglyphs. And I am so open to assembling a team of people who can study these things through the lens of looking at these glyphs and these sacred sites with the idea that we are multidimensional beings of light inside a 3D human body, and through the lens of 1111 and our experience of 1111 and unification with the One. So we started the trip here at the pause of the Sphinx, right between the pause, right at the heart chakra level of the Sphinx. Our group assembled not long after sunrise, and we each were given the opportunity to stand in front of the Sphinx and introduce ourselves. And so it was such a blessing to be able to be so close to the Sphinx and look up and just see the majesty and the size and the glory of this beautiful sculpture on the Giza Plateau. I was completely and utterly moved by every word that everyone said in our group. Each person came with an open heart and expressed who they are introducing themselves to the Sphinx and to the group together, as well as creating their intention and attention for the gathering, for the remainder of our trip. And so this is how we initiated our trip. And I do want to give a special thanks to Audrey Bamdad and Rabbi Khalad, who were our tour guides throughout this entire trip. And so our ceremony was really potent and amazing. And the first thing that happened when I stood up and it was my turn, we each got to bring a leaf or a flower from our land, from our property, from the area that we lived in, and to basically bring some of the essence of where we live. And we started to create an altar together. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner of this photo, some of the altar that was built. And it was a collective altar with all of us. So some people brought shells and stones or crystals. We were also invited to bring a seed stone with us to Egypt. And I brought several seed stones or several pieces of a stone. And essentially what I did was I took pieces of this huge amethyst and then I brought the pieces with me. And so that's heavy. Each time we were at a sacred site or one particular site that I would resonate with, I would choose to leave a piece of the seed stone there. And so you'll see in the altar some of the seed stones that people left here. I personally took a piece and hid it inside the stone facing the Sphinx. And so it was my intention to leave it there because when I come home, I can sit in front of this larger amethyst and connect with the seed stone that I left at the sites. One of the things I did as well when I was visiting is that I picked a stone from each of the sacred sites. Some of them are actually pieces of pottery. Some of them were pieces of petrified wood. And so even though I was leaving some seed stones where I went, I was also bringing pieces of the area back with me. And so I can connect energetically with that sacred site here, sitting at home. So, pause of the Sphinx. One of the codes that came through and that I'm willing and wanting to learn so much more about was actually right between the paws. Between the paws of the Sphinx is what's called the dream stela. Now, the dream stela, it's spelled S-T-E-L-A. Some people spell it S-T-E-L-E. But I'm going to just read a little bit here from Wikipedia. So the dream stela was erected between the front paws of the Great Sphinx of Giza by the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Thutmose IV in the first year of his king's reign. And the story goes that he was out on the plateau and he was hunting and he became quite tired. And so he went and he found a shady spot in the shade of the head of the Sphinx. And it was filled to sand up to here at that point in time. And he rested in the shade of the Sphinx and he had a dream. And he basically said that the gods came to him and said, "You will be the king if you clean up my space." And so the Sphinx basically requested that he clears away the sand around its entire body. And therefore, as he did this, he became king of Egypt. And so this dream stela is a large stone that's sitting at the heart chakra of the Sphinx. Now, the story on the dream stela tells his story of how he had the dream, how he had this epiphany, and how he restored the Sphinx to its former glory, and therefore he is king. Now, the story gets lost a little bit down the dream stela, because around line 12, the hieroglyphs start to fade away. For various reasons, not sure exactly why. But if you take a closer look, we're going to take a closer look here at the glyphs that are there. So one of the things that really came through while I was writing in my journal was that I noticed here that there are 12 levels that the Sphinx are sitting upon. And so you can see with this turquoise pointer here that if you start at the bottom level, just like the floors of a building, that's the bottom level, that's number 1. And at each line, it goes up 10 lines, and then the Sphinx is sitting upon the top, which is the 11th. Then if you look further down in the center of the glyph, you will see a doorway. And so just above the doorway, you will see 4 lines as well. And to me, looking through the lens of 1111, I saw 1, 2, 3, 4 ones. So I saw 1111 doorway that the Sphinx is sitting upon. And then, of course, there's 2 of them because the glyph is mirrored on the other side of the stela. And so as I'm writing in my journal and I'm learning more about this stela and tapping into the energy of what it has to share, I see an 1111 doorway. So this was a powerful moment for me when that realization came through. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, the 1111 codes are coming. And family who have participated or been a part of or was a presenter, helped work with 1111 Unify, you know that our intention is to create virtual events that tap into the sacred sites, where we'll be sharing video from the sacred sites. And so on 11/11, November 11th, we come together in community, and there will be various events around the world. But there will be sacred pilgrimages to these sacred sites. And so people can be present at these sites on November 11th, and we'll be sharing video, live streaming video from the sacred sites to the other events on the planet. And so I'm very, very excited because we're going to be planting the seeds for a trip to Egypt next year. And I'll tell you more about it later, but we plan to be in Egypt on 11/11/2022. So stay tuned for more information about that. So we're going to move on. And I just want to share when the ceremony at the Sphinx was complete. I just wanted to tune in for a moment and share a video from my heart in that present moment in time and what occurred. So our group started to walk away from the Sphinx, knowing that we were going to the Great Pyramid as a group. And so we're going to play the video here after the Sphinx ceremony. So this is a presentation that we created, and we're learning how to utilize this tool. So be patient with us, please, while we deal with these technical things. Here it is. Wonderful. I don't have any sound on this end. I can't hear the video. So my dear friend Brielle is in the background giving me a hand here, and she is wearing headphones. So maybe that's why we're not getting the sound. Let's give that a try again. There we go. We can hear it.
That was absolutely magical, feeling fulfilled and activated in so many ways. Got to introduce myself to the Sphinx as Anistara Ma Ka. multidimensional being of light in the human body, called to service to humanity, taking a stand for love, peace, harmony, and unity, and the divine oneness that connects us all. And opening the 1111 portal and doorway at sacred sites like these throughout our planet on Mothership Earth.
All right. So thank you for letting me share a little bit about the ceremony at the Sphinx. So now our group moved on to the Great Pyramid. And I'll tell you what, it's really difficult to put in words the grandness of the Great Pyramid until you're standing at the base of it, looking up. The energy was so potent. It was so palpable. It was so magical. Even now, I have full body truth bumps flowing all over my entire body. And so this is my beloved friend, Cynthia, one of my dearest, oldest friends. And she was one of my travel partners of many sisters. And her and I were roommates. So there's a lot of videos and photos throughout the 4-part series that will include Cynthia as well. So Cynthia, I adore you. Thank you, sister, for being on this journey with me. And so we're standing at the base of the Great Pyramid, and I am in awe of the power and the majesty. And I began to wonder how this was built. And so we're standing at the stones, and I place my hand on the stone, and I just really, really feel how big and heavy and it's difficult to put into words. So each of these stones is several tons, from 2 to 10 to 20 tons each stone. And they were quarried in Aswan, which is about 90 kilometers away from the Giza Plateau. And so you can imagine in those days what kind of tools they might have needed or what kind of technology they needed to quarry these stones in such exact precision, and then to transport them 90 kilometers to the Giza Plateau, and then to place them one against each other and on top of each other with barely enough, with such precision that you can't even put a piece of paper between the stones. And so I really just tapped into my heart for a moment. And one of the things that really came through for me was some of the history that we're taught in school is inaccurate. I can't speak to what is the total truth. I feel like we're never going to really, really know unless the beings that came and helped or that came and helped to build them, or something comes through where we have full disclosure on how the pyramids are built. They're going to be a mystery to us. Traditional Egyptology teaches that slaves built them in 20 years. From the quarry to the transport to the placement of the stones, that the Great Pyramid took 20 years to build. Is it the Great Pyramid or the Khafre Pyramid? Anyhow, please don't quote me on that one, but one of the pyramids there on the Giza Plateau took 20 years to build, according to Egyptology. It's also told to us that they are tombs, and there was never any sign when people got into the king's chamber, the queen's chamber. There was never any signs that they were used as a tomb. They were completely empty. The box or the sarcophagus was empty. There was no mummy inside of it. And so the solution that Egyptologists shared is that grave robbers came and took everything from the tomb. Now, whether that is true or not, I don't know. But what I do know is that this mystery feels like something that each person will have to just tune into what they believe. Just like everything else in the world, we have our own beliefs of how something occurs. One of the things that I really truly feel is that the pyramids are either some kind of power plant. They were built on top of an aquifer, and the subterranean chamber and the tunnels or the passageways that go up to the Queen's chamber and then up to the King's chamber, and then the four that go out and leave the outside of the pyramid. They could have been filled with water and therefore creating hydroelectricity, because there is a certain crystal composition in the stones, that it creates piezoelectric. It has piezoelectric capabilities as well as hydroelectric capabilities if waters run through them. So again, I am not a scientist, but it's one of the ideas that I read about with Patrick Flanagan's book, Pyramid Power. So if you want to learn more about that particular idea or theory, you can find out more from the book Pyramid Power by Dr. Patrick Flanagan. One of the other things that came through was when we were actually entering the inside of the pyramid and making our way into the King's chamber. So as we moved up the causeway to the King's chamber, I looked around me and I looked at the walls and I looked at the ceiling, and the precision of the stonework was just astounding. And I felt like we were going through a portal. We were going through a portal into this inner sanctum, this inner sanctuary, where really in ancient times, certain high levels of priests and priestesses were allowed into this inner sanctum, in this inner area. Whenever we visited a sacred site, the most holy of holies, the center or the back of the temple was the place where only the priest or priestesses could enter. The usual civilians couldn't. And so when we're able to go into these places now, it's such an honor, first of all. And second of all, I personally felt like it was a privilege to be there. And so when I entered the King's chamber and I saw the granite box, it was a red granite box, I was moved almost to tears. My heart burst open, and I suddenly heard and felt sound waves moving through the room. And so everybody's voice reverberated and created this really intense frequency that was, it was just beautiful. Like the resonance inside the room was perfect. It was absolutely gorgeous. And so I'm standing there at the red granite box, and I have a little story that I wanted to share, and that comes with a video that occurred once we exited the pyramid. And so I took this hyperlapse video, leaving the King's chamber, going to the outside of the pyramid. And then we'll share a video afterwards of what happened when I was inside the King's chamber. I feel truly, truly blessed to have had this experience. So here's the descending from the King's chamber as we exited the King's chamber. It takes a moment to load, and it's really short too, but I just wanted to share it because it was so magical. Gotta love technology. Well, I feel like if it's going to take this much time to load, maybe we should move on to the next video. I feel is more important. This video is basically I descended from the King's Chamber. I came out of the pyramid and I decided to document what was happening for me in that very moment. So let's move on to that video. Got beautiful Brielle in the background helping out with this. Thank you so much, sweetheart. And we'll want to make sure that the sound is on. So we called this one Emerging from the Great Pyramid. And this is just a short clip of what occurred. Well, I guess we'll see what happens here. It was very important to share this, but if it's not going to happen, then that's okay. I could share the story here as well. So as a group, we were inside the King's Chamber and it looks like we're going to try again here. All right, well, we're going to carry on. You can actually see that video on my Facebook wall. It's already there. And as some of you have already heard the story, but essentially, we were in the King's Chamber and the guard started to cause interference and like clapping at people and like basically doesn't want a large group in there meditating or creating any kind of ritual or ceremony. And so it felt like the group was starting to get pushed out. And eventually we were told that we need to leave. And so most of the group left. And as the last few people were leaving the chamber, the guard came over. I had been placing my hands on the red granite box, and there were 3 holes at the top of the box. And I was sticking my fingers into the hole, and I noticed an A. An A, literally, Brielle, if we can go back to that photo, an A literally etched into the red granite box. And so my fingers are running over the A and I'm standing there just holding on to it. And I kind of start toning and just creating a tone with my voice. And the guard came over to me and he looked me straight in the eye and he said, you power, you good power, you number 1. And so you can see the A here at the bottom of this photo. And so I'm sitting there again, just kind of going with the A and hearing him say this. And he looks at me and he says, sit down. And he takes my hand. He did not know much English, but he knew enough to sit me down. And I had my back against the granite box and I am facing the wall. And he says, I make quiet for you. And then he goes around the room and he turns off the air conditioning units. And so it's suddenly quiet. And I had pulled my phone out and I started recording. And I just felt a song coming through my soul and my spirit. I just felt like singing because again, the resonation in the chamber was so potent that I suddenly felt like singing. And I've never considered myself a singer in any way, But when my voice came out in the chamber, just chills up all over my whole body, just truth bumps all over my whole body. And so in the background, I can hear some people coming up the causeway, and later I'll play the sounds, I'll play the song for you. At the end of this presentation, we'll go into a meditation and I'll play this for you. And I can hear a few people coming into the room, and suddenly their voices come in, and we're singing together. The five of us are singing together, toning together. It was so magical. And I pull out my journal and I start writing. I pull out my tuning fork and I play it. Some star language starts to come through. The two men and the two women, I later find out it's for locals. When I stood up and turned around and saw who we were collaborating with, who I was singing with, it was two women and two men, and they seemed like locals. And I just felt so blessed to be in their presence and to be able to share and collaborate in this way. It was truly one of the most magical moments of my entire life. And even now, I'm just so excited to share some of this with you later. At the end of the presentation, I will play what I'm now calling Anistara's song in the King's Chamber. And so we're going to move on now. We've come out of the Great Pyramid, and we are moving into going to lunch at the 9 Pyramids restaurant. Oh, here it is. We have it working.
It was the most beautiful experience of my life.
Welcome back. How are you?
Because we were with a large group, eventually the guard was impatient with everyone being there, and so he asked everyone to leave. And I was standing at the red granite box, supposedly the sarcophagus, in the King's Chamber, and I'm feeling with my fingers 3 holes that are evenly placed along the edge. And I stuck my fingers into the holes, and then I started toning as I waved my hand over the box. And somebody earlier had pointed out that there was a letter A literally etched into the top of the granite where I was standing. And once the last person of our group left, the guard came over and looked me straight in the eye and said, "You power, you good power, you number one." And he encouraged me to sit down next to the granite box and lean my back against it. And then he held my hand and he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I give quiet for you." And he got up and turned all the air conditioners off in the room. I immediately pulled out my phone and started hitting record because I felt a song coming through. And so I started singing, and then was joined by other people, and still was sitting with my back against the granite box facing the wall. And the acoustics inside were so impactful and potent and poignant, and just so blessed for this experience, because I got to sing. I got to express myself with voice inside the King's Chamber, and the resonance and the sound and the vibration and the way that it ricocheted off the walls was just mind-blowing. It was so beautiful. And when the song was over, I pulled out my journal and I started writing, just to take down the experience and to write it out a little bit. And so essentially, I stood up, and the family that I had been singing with, or that we were toning together, was a family, like a local family. It was 2 men and 2 women.
Welcome
And
back.
so I felt very blessed. So, so grateful. I'm going to join the group now.
Oh, just my heart. Oh, I can't wait to share some of this with you later. So we're gonna move on whew, to lunchtime at the 9 pyramids. And so there's a new restaurant there on the Giza Plateau where you can see all 9 pyramids in one place, like the view of it. And it was such a magical moment because here we are, we got to be inside, right? We get to be inside the pyramid and feel the energy of the pyramid. And then to get that, so we had the micro view, the microcosm view, and then to pull back and have the macrocosm view and to just see the pyramids in all their glory from a further distance was so impactful for me because we are all spiral energy, right? So we have the microcosms of the spiral of our DNA and our cells and our atoms spinning around each other. And then we pull back and we have our Earth and the moon spinning around us and us spinning around the sun and then our galaxy spinning as well. And so I had this similar feeling of the microcosms of being inside the resonance and the frequency of the pyramid and then pulling out and seeing that macrocosmic view of the pyramids. So it was a wonderful experience to have lunch. And we had this beautiful Egyptian food. It was hummus and falafel and pita, and the salad is tomato and cucumbers and this yummy sauce and tea, and it was just, yeah. And then baklava afterwards, and we all got to just rest and have a beautiful lecture from Rabi with more information about the Giza Plateau. And so grateful that we had this moment together as a group. And so we're moving on to the next site. And this was the following day. We went to Saqqara and Dashur that day. And Saqqara holds a very special place in my heart because this is one of the places that when I was there, I decided I needed to come back. And so Cynthia and I, at the end of our trip, decided to go back to Cairo so that we can experience Saqqara and the Giza Plateau again. And so this is one of the entrances of the building in Saqqara. I don't remember the name of this building, but as you enter it, all the walls are rippled. And so we were invited to consider that it was, again, sound healing, sound frequency chambers, places where you can come and amplify your frequency, amplify your vibration, and possibly even heal from anything that is ailing you. And so as we moved through this space and we came to the other side of the building, I turned around and I look, and here it is. There are 4 pillars, and instantaneously I saw 1111. And so I've lovingly dubbed this area of Saqqara the 1111 gateway of Saqqara. And it was again, just so strong, so powerful energy here. So this was a magical moment. This was from the second visit to Saqqara with Cynthia. My intention was to go to Saqqara and go back to Unas, the funerary complex of Unas, and the text pyramid of Unas. And so we'll get into that a little bit later. This is one of the areas of Saqqara. It is underground and it's called Serapum. And so sometimes you can spell it P-E-U-M or just the P-U-M. And my dear friend Rabi just sent me a message saying that Marriott has discovered Serapum in 1851. It's an underground gallery consisting of 24 boxes. So each of these boxes were in their own niche, their own nook. And each of these boxes were made out of granite and diorite carved out of one piece of stone. And they weigh about 100 tons. 100 tons. Now, each of these boxes, most of these boxes were slightly open. This one was closed. And I was fascinated by them because the outside of them were, like the outside of this one was nice and straight lines, but the inside of the boxes were polished. They were totally perfectly aligned, perfectly cut out, and polished on the inside of them. And so the energy, when you go down into this underground tunnels, so to speak, and there's these niches, each one in its own little niche, you wonder what it's for. You wonder what it's for. None of them had a mummy in them. None of them were, there was nothing that showed that they were tombs. And so it leads you to wonder what they are, why they were made, how they were made, how they were put there. In fact, one of the boxes was in the middle of the hallway. It didn't even make it into its niche. So it's almost like they suddenly stopped building this. Whatever they were doing down there, they had to suddenly stop. And I'm curious why, right? So this is, again, some of the mysteries of Saqqara. So this gives you an idea of how large these boxes are. This one in particular, the lid was slightly pulled off. And then there's hieroglyphs etched into the stone behind me. But just absolutely massive, absolutely massive. And they weren't carved out of the stone that was there. Like, it's so interesting because in my heart, I feel like, again, these were used somehow for frequency, for vibration, there was a lot of theories being thrown around. So we have no idea the mysteries of Seraphim. And I was so grateful to have the opportunity to go down into these tunnels and experience them. And I hope some of you get to experience this particular area of Saqqara with us in the future. So moving into one of my favorite places in Egypt. Now, looking at the outside of the Unas text pyramid, you wouldn't think, first of all, you wouldn't think it's so awesome on the inside because it just kind of looks like a pile of rubble. The whole outside of the pyramid is disintegrating and crumbling. But when you go down inside it and you enter into the chamber and you look up at the ceiling, there's stars. There's stars all over the ceiling. And you can see that they used to be colored, that there's a dark blue coloring along the top right-hand side. And then on the left side, you can really kind of see the texture of the stars. And if you squint your eyes, they create the flower of life. The flower of life. The seed of creation. How everything is interwoven. Very much how the divine matrix that's behind me here on the screen, that we're all interwoven, that we're all a part of this web of life, this web of consciousness. And so when I see the ceiling and the stars on the ceiling, I just was blown away. And the words kept coming to me. We all come from the stars. We are all star seeds. We come from the stars. We are multidimensional beings of light inside a human 3D meat sack. So Unas held great mystery and beauty to me. One of the things that was so amazing about it was that you have the hieroglyphs on the wall, and then right beside it is a whole nother section of wall that is alabaster. And so you have two different kinds of stones on the wall here. And the alabaster here on the right, it looks like sound frequency waves to me. Well, it looks like several things to me. It looks like Kundalini, right? The energy of serpentine, energy of going up and down. It also has diamonds in the center. So it reminds me of somebody's spine, right? And that inner balance of being connected to our chakra and our spine, and that column of energy in the center of us. And then it looks like resonation, like frequency, like sound moving out, like when you drop a stone in the river and it ripples out. And so it's that ripple effect of what we create in our lives moving out to be shared with others. And so we will attempt to pull up another video here. This is inside Unos's text pyramid. Again, this is the funerary complex of Unos at Saqqara. And the text pyramid, it's actually supposedly the most ancient hieroglyphs in Egypt. So when you walk into the chamber, there's, again, so much power, so much energy. So again, we're attempting something today that really I haven't done before, is creating this presentation with photos and videos. And yeah, there's obviously some tech things. We'll need to work out some kinks in the next few weeks. But that video in particular basically showed the difference between the granite of the hieroglyphs and then the alabaster. And when you put a flashlight on it, you can see through the alabaster. It's like opaque. It's really, really beautiful. Here we go. It just glows. And then you can see on the wall of hieroglyph, there's also an indentation, almost like a sculpture along the wall.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So one of the things that happened inside Unos is that my phone and my gimbal totally just died. Like, not ran out of juice, but I couldn't turn on the app to film anything further. In fact, one of my girlfriends had her old Polaroid camera, and that died as well. So the energy inside Unos was just so strong that even the technology failed. So when we later returned back to Saqqara, I got to experience the Teti text pyramid. Now this one, Unos was special, but Teti won my heart. Of all of Saqqara, Teti won my heart because A, the stars are on the ceiling again. And B, when I look at the granite box, I was enthralled and amazed by it, because as you get closer to it and you actually look inside the box, you can see how the stone was polished and there were glyphs along the inside of the box. And so I would really like to find a study team that understands all of these glyphs and have a better idea of what they mean. So much of the glyphs in these pyramids really has to do with the afterlife, and that even though we're in our human incarnation, that ancient Egyptians felt that the afterlife was even more important than this physical life. And so most tombs would have glyphs and stories of what the person wanted to have in the afterlife, and the abundance that they wanted to have, and the prosperity that they wanted to have. And they believed that they could bring it from this 3D world into the afterlife. And the afterlife was, it's essentially us returning to source, right? And to being a part of the one energy, and returning to the light, returning to God, goddess energy. And so you become immortal in the sense that you become a part of the light. So again, this is my interpretation, and I do want to learn more of what the glyphs are saying, but this is what was coming through when I was in the pyramid. And so I turn around from the granite box, and there's a wall here with the hieroglyphs, and you can see the cartouches. And the cartouche is the oval circle with the line at the bottom. Cartouches usually distinguish somebody's name. And then, yes, exactly, the cartouche is there. And then above it, you can see, again, water symbol or sound frequency or vibration symbol. And then above that is 1111. So let's move into the next glyph. You can get a closer feeling and idea and see the 1111 right there. And it's all over the wall inside Teti. It's amazing. It's incredible. I literally saw it and I was like, oh, there it is. It's just amazing. So then upon closer examination, you can see here a symbol that symbolizes our DNA, right? And our genetic makeup as human beings. So there's above the 1111 is a glyph that looks like an arm with holding like a chalice or an ointment or a container of some kind. And so this is a blessing and this is an offering. So in my mind, my eyes, and what really came through for me was we are blessing this 1111 doorway, and what can come through when you are connected to the energies of 1111 and learn about how we are connected to the one and how we can re-emerge, or how we can remerge with one by passing through the 1111 doorway or the 1111 gateway or the 1111 portal. And we'll really get into this next week in part 2 when we go to Osiris's temple, because when I talk about the Jed pillar here, the Jed pillar, oh my goodness. Wow. That was when that code came through. Again, my whole body just vibrated. I knew the whole body truth bumps fell through and over me. And it was instantaneous. It was like, okay, this is happening. This is it. The codes are coming through. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm an open vessel. Please. I am here to receive more. And to find the team to go to these sites and experience them together. So exciting, more to come. So moving on to another glyph that's inside the Teti text pyramid, you can look at the bottom left-hand corner, and what I saw was kind of like Morse code, right? The dashes and dots and dashes and dots, or even computer code, the ones and zeros, the ones and zeros. And then to the right of that, we see again that waveform, that up and down of sound or frequency or vibration. And then to the right of that, to me, seemed like the Kundalini serpentine energy, right? Of the masculine and the feminine, and the moving of energy of our Kundalini through our chakra system. And then to the left, again, you'll see this checker print, this black and white checker print that to me felt like the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. You could see the dark and the light. You can see the duality, right, of opposites and polarity. But then coming up from that is this energy of kundalini and frequency and vibration and resonation and the movement of energy. So this again was a really important glyph for me and my pilgrimage. So we are outside of Teti and Unas now on another part of the land at Saqqara at the Step Pyramid. They recently reopened the inside of Step Pyramid. Apparently it was closed for 50 years or something like this. And honestly, when I went in there, to me, the energy was just, there was something about it. I want to say stagnant, or it felt like white noise. There was this like energy inside the Step Pyramid. I didn't spend much time in it because it kind of, I don't know, my body went through this, I'm not sure if I like this. And so again, I didn't spend much time with the Step Pyramid, and but I wanted to share it with you because it was there at Saqqara. So this is another, this was a freestanding wall between the Step Pyramid and where you go up the stairs to go over to Unas. And I wanted to point out the serpents here. So the cobra is, in my mind, representation of Kundalini energy, right? It's also about power. And for some women, and in the portal priestesses, the snake, the cobra, the viper energy is similar shape to some women's yonis. So there's this energy here that, how can I say? It's like the serpentine of life, that life energy, that combination of masculine and feminine, and our Kundalini energy. And then below the serpents are these doorways that seemingly go nowhere. And we'll talk about more of this in part 2 and part 3, where it literally looks like a door that you can walk through, but it's stone. And so on Gaia.com, they speak about portals to the universe. And we'll get into this again in part 2 and part 3. But in their series, Ancient Civilizations, they have an episode that's called Portals to the Universe. And they talk about these doorways that are seemingly go nowhere. But again, if it's about frequency, if it's about vibration, if a priest comes to this doorway and knows how to shift his frequency or change the frequency of the stone, then the doorway or the portal opens to pass through it. And so again, we'll get into this a little bit more in the coming weeks. So we moved on to another site that day, to Dashur, where there is the red pyramid and the white pyramid. Now, we had a very interesting experience at Dashur. I'm not going to really go into it this moment in time. But there was a lot of interference at Dashur. The red pyramid, what was shared with the group, was that the red pyramid symbolizes more of the feminine aspect, the female aspect, the root chakra, the place of creation of the world is the feminine aspect of the root chakra. And also, birthing our realities. And so the red pyramid was an interesting place to be, because as we move into this new paradigm shift that we're on, that we're moving into with the planet, and the feminine is rising, we are coming into places of power. More women are starting to be the leaders of certain countries, and just feminine, the goddess, is starting to become honored again in a lot of different ways. And so as this feminine energy is rising, we have to find balance. There's something, we all have masculine and feminine within us. And it is that that struggle between the polarity in which we are asked to learn to start to balance our masculine and our feminine together. And so Dashur was a powerful place, and yet I felt the polarity there. It was so strong. And so moving on, I wanted to show you the bent pyramid, the white pyramid. The white pyramid or bent pyramid is the masculine, the symbol for the masculinity and the energy coming out, the crown chakra, that connection to spirit and our masculine energy. And so it was interesting because I didn't really resonate with this pyramid. Again, there was something about it, but when I went inside, it was clear. It was like there was nothing. It was almost just an empty energy. And so I really invited that emptiness in. I really invited that feeling of being empty and just sitting in it. And so I was super grateful to be able to go into this pyramid and have that experience. So those were the two pyramids of Dashur. And so we only spent few days in Cairo, Giza area. We basically had our opening day, and then the following day is when we started at the Paws of the Sphinx. And then the next day is when we were at Saqqara and Dashur. And so they were very, very full days. It was very intense itinerary, very full, very amazing, and somewhat challenging too, to be up so early in the morning and to go to bed very late in the evening and get to bed around 11:30 midnight, and then have to be up and on the bus at 5 a.m. And so on our final night in this area, we got to go to this beautiful restaurant called Cleopatra. And this was the view from the roof of the restaurant. And you can see the moon rising over Giza, just a beautiful view of the three pyramids. And yeah, we got to enjoy a gorgeous buffet and a Sufi dance by a local dance company. Now, some of you might be familiar with Sufi dancing or whirling dervish. So there was this dance company that came out, and they had musicians and they had the dancers, and the sound is a little intense because the speakers just aren't amazing, to say the least. But we had the pleasure and the experience of witnessing the whirling dervish or Sufi dance. And so our dear tour guide, Ravi, gave us this handout that explains the the hand gestures of the whirling dervish. And so there's certain hand gestures that happen throughout the dance. So the first one, the monotheism of God Almighty, is here. And then the second is this, to separate the mind from the heart and start to rise and prepare to travel. And that is this here. And we fill the soul with cosmic energy, and the heart with the light of God is opening our arms out wide. And then raising the right hand to heaven means drawing goodness and love from the other world and from God. And lowering the left hand to the earth means spreading what the right hand has derived to the earth. So it's taking that energy and then sharing it with the world. And then number 5 is your hands out, supplication and request for forgiveness, love, and mercy. And then number 6 is the freedom from all sins to repair for repentance. And it's the arms back and surrender. And then number 7 is repentance, and it's the hand over the face. And number 8 is filling the soul with the beauty of the universe. And it's bringing your hands up and above your head. And number 9 was God Almighty promised to repent and start implementing good and love. And that's crossing your hands over your heart. And number 10 is spreading the journey of the universe in form of the invisible energy circuit and back from heaven to earth. And it's both hands up like this, which in hieroglyphs, this is also Ka. It's the energy of life force or spirit. So thank you, Robbie, for sharing that with us. So appreciate you. And so we had the opportunity also when we were in Cairo to go to an aromatherapy, how can I call it? Aromatherapy factory, an essential oil factory, where we learned from Gamal, and we had a presentation on the 7 chakras and which essential oils were best for each of the chakras. And so we each got to have the opportunity to smell the oils and sample them. And then we were able to purchase what it is that we wanted from Gamal. And I shared Diamond Light here. That was my little travel companion, little stuffed animal, Diamond Light. She was such a sweetie through the whole thing. We're like, okay, we're going to have Diamond Light with us everywhere we go because we're all rainbow fractals of the same one Diamond Light. And so we named her Diamond Light. And of course, this is the year of the bull, and she's a bull, and she's just so sparkly, and we love her so much. So we needed to give Diamond Light a little prop, a little moment here in the presentation, in the slideshow. And so the morning that we are leaving Cairo, I had a little message for everyone before we got on the bus to travel to Abydos. And so this is the video that I took outside of our hotel, or actually it was from the balcony of our room at the Steinberger Hotel. And so we'll see if we can pull it up real quick. Just so grateful that I had the opportunity to be here and receive the messages and the codes that Cairo and Giza area had to offer.
Good rising, everyone. It is 5:30 a.m. and we are on our way, leaving from the Steinberger Pyramids Hotel, where it's like a power button, right? You just turn it on. Just go bing, 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 turn on. That's right. Bing, bing. That's what we're here to do with you because we love you. Bing, bing. And we know you have great power. So did that turn on, off, on, off? Oh, I'll turn it back on. Bing, bing. Yes, there we go. And so we're leaving this beautiful hotel. It's been hosting us so well. and holding so much gratitude in our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And looking forward to traveling. We have the 9-hour bus ride right now to the Winter Palace near Abydos. And so once we arrive, we get to chill and hang out and just integrate for a while, which is very much needed right now.
Mm-hmm. And so I made the mistake. It was not Winter Palace. That was in Luxor. This was a bus ride to Abydos, where we stayed at the House of Life, which was a precious place. So next week for part 2, we will dive into Abydos and Dendera, where the codes really started coming through when I was at the Temple of Osiris. And so the photos and the video that I have to share from that particular site is, yeah, after some integration time at the House of Life and then going to Osiris with this new vision, this new way of looking at things. It truly was powerful. So please join us next week for part 2 on that. So here is one of my final moments on the Giza Plateau, making out with the Sphinx. And we're going to just hold this photo up while I share Anistara's song from the King's Chamber. So I'd like to take a moment to invite all of you to just drop in. And if you have the opportunity to play this on larger speakers or even an external speaker, when I did share the King's Chamber song with a couple girlfriends in Egypt, we had a small speaker and we placed it on the bed, and we all just laid back and closed our eyes and listened to it as it actually vibrated the bed. And I'll tell you what, that was really powerful to do it that way, because then you can actually feel it. And so even if you can't do that in this moment now, I invite you to do that later. Just come back to the presentation, go ahead and fast forward to the part where we're playing this song, and experience it that way, because it truly is magical. So I'm so grateful to be able to share this with all of you. Please take some time to just relax, take some deep breaths and close your eyes and come into a meditative state and just experience the song from the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. I would like to share that I'm hoping to stitch together some of the songs from inside each of the pyramids into a beautiful track that I'll be sharing with all of you later this year. So for now, this is the raw experience, and be mindful that you can hear people in the hallway of the Great Pyramid, like as they come up into the King's Chamber. So it's not crystal clear, but it is so worth it. So thank you for letting me share, and let's just sit back and relax and enjoy this together.
So blessed, so blessed, so blessed. May your light shine bright, diamond light. Blessed be Maya Singatera. Doriana Sigatana Beto. Omia Shana Gatea Setones. Bruniana Elatana Comase. Mea Goni Alatana Tu Eashara. Maya Sanakatea. Oniendatina Pakashatea. Rotitipaha Sitono. Emayana Kona Sitayate. Poliashana Kita. Rumastina Katea. Omia Santakea Tutun. Prosata. Prosata. So.
So blessed, so blessed, so blessed to have that opportunity, to have those 4 angels to come and do that together. It's a big deal for me to share this with you too, because it's a very vulnerable moment for me. I've never considered singing in my life, and being in that chamber, like, it's like my voice is coming out, my voice in singing, my voice in speaking, my voice in sharing, my voice in what I have to offer. Not me, but what there is to be offered through me. That my invitation to be an open vessel, receptive to the messages that are meant to come through and to be shared with the world. And that was a powerful moment for me, for us, for the mission, for the vision. I don't even like using the word me, because it's not me. It's one. It's God essence coming through, and the wisdom and the intuition. And so thank you for letting me share. I would like to invite you to join us for our next pilgrimage, or all right. Robbie and I and my beloved Andrew are planning a group trip for 1111 Unify Global Gatherings. And we'll be going on a pilgrimage to Egypt, sacred pilgrimage and a joint research expedition, October 26th through November 14th of 2022. So next year, 2022, we will be together in the King's Chamber. And so I invite you, the temple doors are open. Starry family, I am calling in the people who are feeling called to come to Egypt, the people who have a resonation with Egypt, the people who know in their body, mind, spirit that they would come home to Egypt, so that we can be there together, so we can have experiences like this together, and that we can co-create them together, and that we can go to these sacred sites and be activated by them, so that we can remember who we are and the wisdom and the codes that are meant to come through each and every one of us. We all hold a piece of the puzzle. We are all rainbow fractals of the same one diamond light. And if we get to go and experience some of these places together and activate them together and be activated by them, imagine what could happen if we have groups of people at each sacred site on the planet at the same time. On November 11th, every year, it is my mission and vision to gather people at the sacred sites, as well as having multiple events around the globe that we're live streaming from the sacred sites, so that we can have these experiences together collectively, and we can activate our crystalline light grid on the planet and raise the frequency and vibration of Mama Gaia and our human family together. And so that's the vision. That's the vision. And for those that are interested, you can find out more. We're going to put a link in the comments where you can just fill out a form to join our email list, and then we'll be sending information out as to how you can make a deposit and apply to be a part of this very special sacred pilgrimage and a joint expedition, research expedition together, looking at the sacred sites in Egypt through the lens of 1111. And so I look forward to seeing all of you next week for part 2. Where we venture to Abydos and the Temple of Osiris, and Dendra, the Temple of Hathor, and move on to parts of Luxor. So thank you, blessed family, for being here, for your attention and your intention. And I'm just sending beams of love to all of you. Blessed be. Have a beautiful day. Yeah.